Welcome to English Every Day, your daily dose of English learning, fun conversations, and practical tips to take your language skills to the next level.
All right, so get ready because today we are going on a whirlwind tour of some really fascinating and unique traditions from around the world. You guys gave us some interesting sources for this deep dive.
Yeah.
A travel blog article about all sorts of global customs, plus a top 10 YouTube video. Our mission to unpack not just what these traditions are,
Right.
but what they reveal about different cultures,
I like that.
and maybe even ourselves along the way.
Yeah, it's like holding up a mirror to humanity.
Exactly. And some of these are going to make you look twice. We're talking competitive wife carrying in Finland.
What?
Yes, you heard that right.
Yeah.
To a festival in Italy where they literally throw furniture out their windows.
Yeah.
But we're not just here for the shock value.
Right.
We're digging deeper,
Uh,
ready to get your culture on.
let's do it. I'm always up for expanding my worldview.
Okay. So to kick things off, let's talk about how different cultures handle life's biggest moments.
Okay.
And we're going to start with death.
Oh.
It might sound a bit morbid, but bear with me. This is where it gets really interesting.
I'm intrigued already. I mean, death is something that every culture has to deal with.
It is.
But the ways they do are so diverse.
Absolutely. And our sources highlight two traditions that could not be more different.
Okay.
The Japanese tea ceremony and the Toraja funeral rites in Indonesia.
Interesting.
One is all about quiet contemplation. The other, a full-on, days-long celebration.
That's a fascinating contrast. What struck me about the tea ceremony was the emphasis on ritual and mindfulness. It's almost like a meditation on the impermanence of life.
It's true. The sources even describe the specific way you whisk the matcha, the placement of the utensils. Everything is so deliberate. It's about finding beauty and peace in the present moment,
Yeah.
even as you acknowledge that that moment is fleeting.
All right. And then you have the Toraja funeral rites, which are like the polar opposite. I was blown away by the description. They last for days.
I know.
Involve feasts, animal sacrifices, dancing. It's like a giant party to celebrate the deceased person's journey into the afterlife.
Right. And it's not just about sending them off. It's about maintaining a connection with them. They believe that the deceased are still present, still part of the community.
So different from how many cultures in the West approach death.
Yeah.
We tend to shy away from it, treat it as something taboo.
Right.
The Toraja tradition really challenges us to rethink our whole perspective.
I was thinking the same thing. It makes you wonder, what does it say about a culture that embraces death so openly?
Yeah.
What impact does that have on their understanding of life, their relationships, their values?
That's a question worth pondering.
Right.
It seems like a culture that can celebrate death so vibrantly might also have a different relationship with grief, with loss,
Yeah.
and the cycle of life itself.
You know, that's such an insightful point. I think that's what makes these deep dives so fascinating. They're not just about learning facts.
Right.
They're about challenging our assumptions
Yeah.
and expanding our understanding of what it means to be human.
Absolutely. It's like we're piecing together a global puzzle of human experience,
I love that.
one tradition at a time.
So we've explored two very different ways that cultures approach death. But both traditions, in their own way, offer a framework for dealing with the unknown.
Definitely. And speaking of the unknown,
Yeah.
that seems to be a recurring theme in many traditions around the world,
Oh, yeah.
especially those centered around warding off evil or attracting good luck.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Our sources are full of these.
I bet.
And some of them are downright strange, even a little hilarious.
Like what?
I mean, burning witches, making babies cry.
Oh, wow.
You can't make this stuff up.
It just goes to show that no matter where you are in the world,
Yeah.
people have this deep-seated need to feel some sense of control over forces they can't explain or
yeah.
predict.
Exactly. Okay, so let's start with Denmark's Sankthans celebration.
Okay.
They build these huge bonfires and burn a witch effigy on top. Now, the image itself is pretty striking, a little creepy even.
Right. Makes you wonder how that became a tradition.
I know.
And the answer lies in history.
Okay.
It turns out this festival has ancient pagan roots, possibly linked to the summer solstice.
So fire is a symbol of purification, driving away the darkness.
Exactly. And over time, the tradition evolved, becoming more family-friendly. Today, it's all about bonfires, singing, community gatherings.
Yeah.
but that burning witch is still there.
Right.
Like a little reminder of those ancient beliefs.
That's a cultural echo, isn't it?
It is.
Then you have Japan's Naki Sumo, where sumo wrestlers try to make babies cry.
Oh my gosh.
Apparently, a strong cry is thought to ward off evil spirits.
Can you imagine these huge, powerful wrestlers
Oh.
trying to make tiny babies cry?
Right.
It's such a visually arresting tradition, and it really gets you thinking about the cultural logic behind it.
Right. Like, what does it say about their view of children,
Yeah.
of good and evil, of the role of ritual in everyday life?
It's a window into a completely different worldview.
Wow.
And then we have Scotland's Hogmanay fireball swinging,
Oh, yeah.
where people literally swing balls of fire above their heads as they parade through the streets.
Talk about a fiery spectacle.
Oh, yeah.
Our sources went all out describing this one. It's definitely a visual feast, and it's not just about the spectacle.
Right.
It's about purifying the town,
Yeah.
driving away bad spirits, and welcoming the new year with a bang.
And what's interesting is the historical context. This tradition has possible Viking roots,
Wow.
but it's still going strong today,
Really?
even in a modern technological society.
So it's a tradition that's managed to evolve and adapt while still holding on to its core meaning.
Exactly. And that's something we see again and again with these traditions.
Yeah.
They're not static. They're living things that change and grow with the people who celebrate them.
That's such a great point. It reminds us that culture isn't just something we inherit. It's something we actively create and recreate through our traditions and rituals.
It's like a conversation between the past, present, and future.
Yeah.
And that's something we can all be a part of, even if our own traditions look very different.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've explored how different cultures celebrate life's biggest moments
Right.
and how they try to influence the uncontrollable. Now, are you ready for something a little lighter?
Bring it on. I could use a break from all the existential pondering.
Great. Because our next stop is all about traditions centered around, well, good food and having a blast.
Okay. It's funny how we often associate traditions with things like, holidays or religious ceremonies.
Right.
But they can also be about just letting loose and having fun.
Yeah.
And connecting with your community in a completely different way.
So true. And let's be honest, who doesn't love a good food fight every now and then?
I mean,
That brings us to Spain's La Tomatina, the world-famous tomato-throwing festival.
oh yeah, I've seen pictures of that.
Yeah.
It looks like absolute chaos.
Oh, it is?
Thousands of people covered head to toe in tomato pulp.
I know.
Just going wild.
It's pure, unadulterated fun.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that it started as a spontaneous event back in the 1940s.
Really?
No one really knows for sure how it began,
Wow.
but it caught on. And now it's this huge tourist attraction.
That's so cool. It makes you wonder what it is about a giant food fight
Yeah.
that's so universally appealing. Maybe it's a chance to let go of inhibitions,
Uh-huh.
break social norms,
You're right.
and just embrace the absurdity of it all.
Right. There's something incredibly liberating about being part of a giant, messy, joyful free-for-all.
I can imagine.
It's like a collective act of defiance against the seriousness of everyday life.
And it's not just about the individual experience. It's
Wow.
about being part of something bigger than yourself. You're literally surrounded by people from all over the world,
I know.
all united in this shared act of tomato-throwing madness.
It's like a temporary community formed around this crazy, chaotic ritual.
Speaking of unique communities.
Right. Let's move on to Thailand's Monkey Buffet Festival,
Oh, yeah.
where a feast is laid out for thousands of monkeys.
That's right. It takes place at the Phra Prang Samyot Temple in Lopburi, and it's quite a spectacle.
Oh, it is.
Imagine mountains of fruit,
I knew.
vegetables, and other treats,
Yeah.
all for the enjoyment of these mischievous primates.
Our sources describe the monkeys just going to town on this feast,
Oh, yeah.
swinging from the temple ruins,
Wow.
stuffing their faces,
Ah.
causing general monkey mayhem.
And it's not just a random act of kindness.
Right.
The monkeys are seen as guardians of the temple,
Uh-huh.
and this festival is a way for the locals to show their respect and gratitude.
So it's a blend of cultural beliefs, respect for nature, and of course, a bit of good old-fashioned spectacle.
I mean, who doesn't love watching monkeys go bananas over a buffet?
Okay, now for a tradition that's a bit more, shall we say, adventurous, England's cheese rolling.
Oh, yes, the Cooper's Hill cheese rolling event.
Where else in the world can you witness grown adults hurling themselves down a steep hill in pursuit of a runaway wheel of cheese?
It's equal parts absurd.
I know.
exhilarating, and dangerous.
Right.
People get bumps, bruises, even broken bones chasing after that cheese.
Yeah.
And the craziest part is, no one really knows for sure how this tradition started.
It's shrouded in mystery, which just adds to its allure. Some say it has pagan origins. Others believe it was a way for shepherds to mark their grazing territory. But whatever its origins, it's a testament to the human spirit of competition.
Right.
Even if that competition involves risking life and limb for a hunk of double Gloucester.
You know, it makes you wonder about the psychology of tradition.
I know, right?
Why are we so drawn to these seemingly illogical, even dangerous rituals?
Right.
Is it the thrill of the chase, the sense of community, the connection to the past?
Those are great questions.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a combination of all those things.
Yeah.
The desire to push our limits, to belong, to feel connected to something bigger than ourselves.
I like that.
Okay, so we've seen how traditions can be celebratory, chaotic, and even a bit reckless. Now, are you ready to explore the more intense side of ritual?
Let's do it. I'm fascinated by those traditions that push the boundaries of human experience, that challenge our notions of comfort and pain.
Well, you're in for a treat.
Okay.
Our next stop takes us to Bolivia, where entire villages engage in ritualistic fistfights during the Tinku Festival.
Wow, okay.
Now, before you imagine like a chaotic brawl,
Yeah.
it's important to understand the cultural context.
Right, because on the surface, it might seem like just violence for violence's sake, but there's a much deeper meaning behind it.
Exactly. The sources we have describe these fights as offerings to Pachamama,
Okay.
the earth goddess, in hopes of a bountiful harvest. They believe that by spilling their blood, they are nourishing the earth.
It's a powerful example of how ritual can transform even acts of violence into something sacred, something connected to the cycle of life and death.
And it's a reminder that traditions can't always be understood at face value.
Right.
We have to dig deeper,
Yeah.
consider the cultural context, and be open to perspectives that might initially seem strange or even shocking.
Absolutely. Speaking of traditions that might seem shocking to outsiders,
Okay.
let's move on to Greece, where participants walk barefoot across hot coals during the Anastenaria ritual.
Oh, the very thought of walking on fire makes my feet tingle.
I know.
But for the Anastonari practitioners,
Yeah,
it's a deeply spiritual experience.
it is.
They believe the flames have the power to cleanse their souls and bring them closer to the divine.
And the origins of this ritual are fascinating.
Yeah.
They might date back to pre-Christian times,
Wow.
possibly influenced by ancient Dionysian rites.
So this tradition has survived for centuries,
Yeah.
passed down through generations, even as the culture around it changed and evolved. That's pretty remarkable.
It is, and it speaks to the enduring power of belief. And the human need to connect with something greater than themselves, even if it means enduring pain or discomfort.
And it's not just about the individual experience.
Right.
It's about community. The entire village comes together to witness and support the firewalkers.
Huh.
It's a collective act of faith, a shared ritual that binds them together.
You know, it's interesting how so many traditions involve enduring pain or discomfort as a form of spiritual purification or initiation.
Yeah.
We see it in different cultures around the world, from Native American sweat lodges to Buddhist monks who self-immolate.
It's like pain becomes a pathway to transcendence,
Yeah.
a way to break through the limitations of the physical self and connect with something more profound.
And it challenges us to think about our own relationship with pain and discomfort.
Yeah.
What are our limits? What are we willing to endure for our beliefs, our values, our sense of belonging?
Those are some deep questions.
I know.
And I think that's what makes exploring these traditions so rewarding.
It is.
It's not just about learning about other cultures.
Yeah.
It's about learning about ourselves, about the human condition itself.
Well said. Okay, ready for our final stop on this intense journey.
Bring it on.
Our last tradition takes us to India,
Okay.
where we witness extreme acts of devotion during the Thaipusam festival.
I have to admit, even I was a bit taken aback by the images from this festival.
Really?
Devotees piercing their bodies with hooks and skewers,
gosh.
carrying heavy structures called kavadi,
Wow.
all while seemingly in a trance-like state.
It's a powerful example of how ritual can push the boundaries of human endurance.
Yeah.
And it's all done as an offering to Lord Murugan, a Hindu deity.
Mm.
The devotees believe that by enduring pain, they are demonstrating their faith and gratitude.
And it's not just about individual devotion.
Uh-huh.
It's about community.
Right.
Family and friends support the devotees throughout their ordeal, helping them carry their burdens,
Yeah.
offering words of encouragement.
That's nice.
It's a collective act of faith and sacrifice.
And again, it challenges our notions of pain and suffering.
Yeah.
What we might see as extreme, they see as a path to spiritual liberation.
Right.
A way to transcend the limitations of the physical self and connect with the divine.
So we've journeyed through traditions that celebrate life and death, ward off evil, bring good luck,
Right.
involve food and fun,
Yeah,
and now test the limits of human endurance. It's been quite a ride.
it has.
What are your thoughts as we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
You know what strikes me is the incredible diversity of human expression.
Yeah.
And yet the underlying commonality, despite their differences, all these traditions are about connecting with something larger than ourselves.
Right.
Whether it's connecting with our ancestors, our community, our beliefs, or the natural world, traditions provide a sense of belonging, meaning, and purpose.
Beautifully said. It's like these traditions are different threads woven together to create the rich tapestry of human experience.
Exactly, and we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah. There are countless other threads out there waiting to be discovered.
Speaking of discoveries, are you ready to lighten things up a bit
I am.
and explore some traditions that are more about spectacle, beauty, and cultural expression?
Absolutely. I'm all for a bit of visual splendor after all that intensity.
Perfect. Because our next stop is a whirlwind of color, costumes, and dazzling rituals. Stay tuned as we continue our deep dive into the wonderful world of traditions. All right, so let's shift gears a bit and dive into some traditions that are all about spectacle and beauty. We've seen how rituals can be intense, thought-provoking, even a bit wild.
Right.
Now we're focusing on the visual feasts, the elaborate costumes, the dazzling displays that make you say, wow, that's incredible.
It's like taking a trip around the world through art, music, and performance.
Right.
And each tradition we're looking at offers a unique window into a culture's soul. You know, how they celebrate their identity and heritage.
And our sources definitely delivered on the wow factor. We're talking fire festivals, mask parades.
Wow. Loading lanterns. There's so much visual richness to unpack here.
It's a reminder that tradition isn't just about preserving the past.
Right.
It's also about creative expression, about using artistry and symbolism to connect with something larger than yourself.
Okay, let's start with a tradition we touched on earlier.
Okay.
Scotland's hog money. We talked about the fireball swinging.
Yeah.
But that's just one piece of this multifaceted New Year's celebration.
What really struck me was the sheer scale of the fire festivals across Scotland. Imagine torchlight processions winding through the streets.
Wow.
Massive bonfires lighting up the night sky.
Yeah.
Fireworks erupting overhead. It's sensory overload in the best possible way.
And it's not just about the spectacle, it's about the symbolism. Fire has this primal power.
It does.
Right? It represents purification, renewal, driving away the darkness of the old year and welcoming in the light of the new.
Absolutely. And you see that same symbolism echoed in fire festivals around the world. It's a universal language speaking to our shared human need to cleanse, to start fresh, to hope for a brighter future.
Now let's hop over to Czechia, where the Masopust Carnival transforms ordinary streets into a fantastical world of masks and costumes.
Oh, fun.
What I found fascinating about Masopust is how it blends pagan and Christian traditions.
Oh, really?
You have these masks representing mythical creatures,
Huh.
animals, figures of good and evil.
Yeah.
It's like a visual representation of the battle between winter and spring, darkness and light.
And it's all tied to the pre-Lenten period, a time for feasting and revelry before the austerity of Lent begins.
Yes, it's like saying, let's go all out, let loose, embrace the chaos before we hunker down for a season of reflection.
I like that. And those masks, they're not just decorative.
Right.
They're transformative. They allow people to step outside their everyday identities,
Yeah.
to embody different characters, to play with the boundaries between the human and the supernatural.
It's like a collective act of imagination.
It is.
A way for the whole community to participate in this symbolic drama.
And that's something we see in carnival traditions all over the world.
It is.
Whether it's Rio de Janeiro, Venice, or New Orleans, there's this shared element of letting go of inhibitions.
Right.
Mocking authority, celebrating the cyclical nature of life.
Okay, now, for a tradition that's a bit more serene, a bit more contemplative, Thailand's Loy Krathong Festival. It's known as the Festival of Lights.
I've heard of that.
And the images are truly breathtaking.
Yeah.
Imagine this. Thousands of tiny, intricately decorated rafts
Wow.
called krathongs floating down rivers and waterways.
Beautiful.
Each one is made from banana leaves, adorned with flowers, candles, and incense. It's a river of flickering lights against the backdrop of the night sky.
It's like a scene out of a fairy tale, and it's more than just a pretty sight, right?
It is.
Loy Krathong is a way to pay respects to the water spirits, ask for forgiveness for any wrongdoings,
Right.
and make wishes for the future.
So it's a blend of spiritual beliefs and aesthetic beauty, a way to connect with both the natural world and something beyond it. It's a reminder that tradition can be both deeply personal and profoundly communal.
I like that.
Well, I think we've successfully traveled the world through some pretty amazing traditions today. We've seen how rituals can be solemn, intense, celebratory,
Right.
chaotic, even a bit dangerous. What really stands out to you as we wrap up this deep dive?
You know, for me, it's the realization that no matter how different these traditions may seem on the surface,
Yeah.
they all speak to something universal about the human experience. They're about our need to connect, to create, to find meaning, to celebrate the cycles of life,
Right.
nature, and the universe.
It's like we've been piecing together a global puzzle of human expression,
Exactly.
each tradition adding a unique and fascinating piece.
And it's a puzzle that's never fully complete.
That's true.
There are always
Right.
more traditions to discover, more stories to be told, more ways to understand ourselves and the world around us.
So, dear listeners, as you go about your day, we challenge you to look around and notice the traditions that shape your own life.
Yeah.
What stories do they tell? What values do they reflect?
Hmm.
And how do they connect you to something bigger than yourself? That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey.
Thank you for tuning into today's episode of English Every Day. We hope you found the tips and discussions valuable as you continue to improve your English skills. Don't forget to subscribe for more content and keep practicing every day. The more you engage, the better you'll get. Until next time, stay motivated and keep learning. See you in the next episode.